Well, the head of the Secret Service on the hot seat on Capitol Hill as we learn that the armed intruder who jumped the White House fence made his way much deeper into the White House than the public was previously told, laying bare a series of security lapses for what is supposed to be one of the most secure places in the entire world.
Is there a crash button, and had it been pushed, would it have locked the front door, what's marked as the entrance hall?
The front door at the time did not have an automatic locking mechanism. It required an individual to hand lock the door.
Okay, so we have an automated system that can lock down the White House. $800 million a year, millions of dollars more during your tenure each year than the President's request, and that door was unlocked with no one standing at it when Mr. Gonzalez came through it. Is that correct?
The door was unlocked at the time of Mr. Gonzalez's entry. That's correct.
Incredible. And this is incredible. This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros here today. Harris Faulkner.
I like that.
Author and political commentator Rachel Campos-Duffy. Katie Pavlich. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the executive producer of the famous Imus in the Morning, Bernard McGurk, and he's outnumbered.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Back to the show.
You
Yes.
came back. We didn't scare you away.
Well, no, actually, in all honesty, I got a call from your executive producer, Jay, and he said that the Clooney marriage had cast a pall on the set around here and things. He thought maybe I'd be able to help. And, you know, that's the kind of guy I am. I'm here to help.
We've been very depressed, so
Yes.
we said if you can't get us Clooney, get us Bernie.
Exactly right.
And we do deliver here, don't
That's
we?
right.
And I asked for you first, by the way. I don't know George.
They've been fighting over you.
They have been, right?
It's been a war in this
I
building.
get that everywhere I go.
That's what I hear.
It ain't easy being me.
All right. Well, we were told at first the White House fence jumper only made it as far as right inside the White House door. Now we're finding out it was much, much worse. The intruder, who had a knife on him and reportedly 800 rounds of ammo in his car, overpowered a Secret Service agent at the door before bolting through much of the White House's main floor, running past the stairs leading to the first family's residence, and the intruder making it as far as the East Room in the White House, the scene of so many presidential addresses, so much history, before he was tackled. And as disturbing and shocking as these details are, it's hardly the first serious security lapse at the White House in recent years. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel live from the Hill. So, Mike, can you believe this? What's going on down there?
Well, Andrea, some tense moments. The Secret Service director says that officers and agents are allowed to use lethal force to stop an intruder from getting into the White House. The question is, why didn't they? Let's take a live look at the House Oversight and Government Reform hearing, looking into the blunders at the Secret Service. A lot of focus on the Omar Gonzalez fence jumping incident at the White House on September 19th. Initially, it sounded like Gonzalez had been stopped near the front door, but Julia Pearson, the Secret Service director, was asked about where he was actually nabbed further inside the White House.
As Mr. Gonzalez entered the door, he knocked back the officer that was standing at the doorway. The officer then engaged Mr. Gonzalez. They crossed the east entrance hall together, made the left turn down the cross hall. They stepped momentarily into the East Room.
Gonzalez was captured with a knife in his pocket after he breached 5 rings of White House security September 19th. There's been some focus on why agents didn't stop Gonzalez sooner.
If a would-be intruder cannot be stopped by a dog or intercepted by a person, perhaps more lethal force is necessary. And I want those Secret Service agents and officers to know at least this member of Congress has their back. Don't let somebody get close to the president. Don't let somebody get close to his family.
This is just the latest in a series, a string of embarrassing incidents involving the Secret Service, and a Democrat on the panel says it's time for major change.
The time is ripe for a 21st century makeover of the Secret Service. I do not regard this matter as a mere question of personnel. I believe it goes far deeper than that.
Pearson, the Secret Service director, says what happened isn't acceptable and the security plan was not properly executed. She needs to convince lawmakers that it won't happen again. Andrea?
All right, Mike Emanuel from Capitol Hill. Thanks, Mike.
Terrific.
Really astounding stuff.
Wow.
Bernie.
Unbelievable.
I was shocked when I heard that he made it into the residence. Now, President Obama wasn't there that day, but it's pretty scary to think that this is a string of events that's happened. The White House is supposed to be impenetrable, and it's not. And we've heard barely any, I would think, fury from the White House, just from Capitol Hill lawmakers.
I almost got an opportunity to take a nap in the Lincoln bedroom. It's unbelievable. I mean, a couple of fat bouncers from a cheesy New York City nightclub could have done a better job than the Secret Service did in this particular case. He would have never gotten into a nightclub. It's just, look, it's no joke. It's no laughing matter. And she testified this morning that this the head of the Secret Service, that 16 people this year so far have jumped over the fence. That's mind-boggling. Make the fence bigger. I mean, at the very least, put some razor wire on top of it.
It's so interesting that we talk about the border crisis and securing our border, and we don't secure the border around the White House. That's a topic for another time. I do want to kind of bring some light, though, into how far this man really got, because we talk about the East Room where the president spoke, but actually it was just outside the Green Room. And if you go to non-public events in the White House, that's one of the first reception areas. It's a very small, quaint room, very cozy, which was refurbished. I think it was 2007 by First Lady Laura Bush at the time. This is an intimate type of setting. We want to make that point because this wasn't some perimeter, and this was far from the front door. You got in.
And Katie, they brought up a lot of good points in these hearings. What if there are multiple jumpers? We've only had one at one time, and they can barely handle that one.
That we know of.
That we know of, right? And also, we learned that there was a button that usually alerts when somebody penetrates the White House.
They turned it off.
Someone thought it was pretty annoying, so they said, oh, what's that sound? Let's turn that off.
Yeah, and I don't think that the solution is to make the fence bigger. I think the solution is to put a sign on the fence that says, if you jump over the fence, you will be shot. The Secret Service has the ability to do that. This guy ran the length of a football field to get not only to the front door, but to get inside. And one thing I want to bring up here is that this isn't an issue of technology or not having the ability to do things. This is a matter of locking the front door. And Ronald Kessler, who was a former Wall Street Journal and Washington Post investigative reporter, wrote a really incredible piece for Time after this whole thing happened, saying that Secret Service thinks that we're fools. And he blames this repetitive notion of these things continuing to happen on a culture of bad management and a culture of laxness that condones cutting corners. And I think that's really what we're seeing here, because we've seen this happen over and over again. And I do want to give Ms. Pearson credit for coming right out of the gate and saying, I take full responsibility for this, because we never see that in government.
Then she should have
we'll see if
answered
anyone's
more of the
actually
questions
held
directly
accountable.
They
But she
kept
did
having
throw
to wrap
some
her.
praise very
Get her
quickly,
back to
Rachel.
point.
I'd wait for the shoe to drop here, because his name is Omar Gonzalez. I'm Latina. I understand the Gonzalez part. I have 7 kids. Paloma, Evita, no Omars. So we need to learn more about who this guy is and what his motivations truly were.
No question, and it's embarrassing as well.
It is
the nation.
embarrassing.
President Obama facing a blistering backlash today after appearing to blame the intelligence community for missing the rise of ISIS. The chair of the House Intel Committee, Mike Rogers, saying the warning signs have been known about these extremists for quite some time, saying, quote, for over a year, U.S. intelligence agencies specifically warned that ISIL was taking advantage of the situation in Syria to recruit members and provoke violence that could spill into Iraq and the rest of the region. This was not an intelligence community failure, but a failure by policymakers to confront the threat. And this scathing rebuke from former Congressman Alan West, who served in both Iraq wars. He accuses the president of being derelict in his duty as commander-in-chief for not taking the rise of ISIS seriously sooner.
In the military, we have a simple maxim. Leaders take responsibility. They don't take credit. And for this president, who has been receiving daily intelligence briefings that he has had left on his desk, has not been reading, for this president and for the entire world who saw ISIS cross over the border into Iraq, take Al-Fallujah and Ramadi back in February, he referred to them as a junior varsity team, JV team. Obviously, he underestimated.
Well, now the White House appears to be backtracking. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest saying it was never the president's intent to blame the intelligence community for dropping the ball on ISIS.
What the president was trying to make clear, and this is something I would point out that the president has said on previous occasions in response to questions from probably somebody who's sitting in this room right now, about how difficult it is to predict the will of security forces that are based in another country to fight. The president's commander-in-chief, and he's the one who takes responsibility.
Pathetic excuse, in my opinion. The intel community, Rachel, fighting back, saying he was warned multiple times. And this bomb dropping today. The president missed this threat, according to a new Government Accountability Institute report, because maybe he only attended 42% of his intel briefings.
That's what I was just going to bring up. 42% of them. He has time for March Madness brackets on ESPN. He has time for vacation, golf, basketball. This is kind of really dereliction of duty. This is job number one of the president.
And we learned the same nugget of information, Harris, before the Benghazi attacks, that he wasn't attending these briefings.
Well, you know what?
Why?
You talk about accountability and government job security colliding. If the president really wanted to blame somebody, has he considered maybe punishing these people? Well, no.
Right.
Because it wasn't them.
Yeah.
No. And I just scratch my head. You've got the Secret Service on one hand. He's blaming the national intelligence for what we did or did not know about ISIS. If he really has people around him that he cannot trust, why doesn't he do something about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the bigger number with the
intel.
intelligence reports is that he is not reading 60% of them. So he's attending 40%, but he's not attending 60% of them, a majority. But one thing that Josh Earnest did say also in the fallout from what the president did to the intelligence community is that there's no question that he relies on important advice from leaders in the military, the diplomatic corps, and from leaders in our intelligence community. So at the same time, they're saying the president is relying on the intelligence community, who is saying, we're giving you all the information that you should have had, saying they gave it to him a year ago. You still have the president throwing them under the bus when it's convenient for him politically to get out of taking responsibility.
But he's not relying on them, Bernie. I mean, if he's relying on them, then he's listening to them, but he's not taking their advice.
There's no way he didn't know. He knew what ISIS was up to. They took Mosul in June, Fallujah in February, and so he knew. He just didn't want to get us involved. That's his MO. That's his strategy, which I happen to agree with. It wasn't until the beheadings and the polls that he read and the outrage to the beheadings that he decided to take action against ISIS, which I'm sorry he did, because he caved into the emotions, and now we're stuck in this here quagmire. And so, but that he was misrepresenting what happened. It wasn't an intelligence failure. He knew, and he just waited.
Yeah, a former counterterrorism task force member was on with Neil Cavuto yesterday, and he said the administration's more concerned about being politically correct than the safety of the American people. Pretty harsh words coming from a former member of the FBI. All right, the district attorney announcing charges against the man accused of attacking 2 women in Oklahoma, beheading one of them. What we are learning now about the suspect and what his motivation could have been. Also, a day after Chelsea Clinton leaves the hospital with her brand new baby girl, we see the media treating the birth as an event like the royal baby in England. And right after the show, catch more from the couch on the web. Join us for Outnumbered Overtime. Log on to foxnews.com/outnumbered. Click the Overtime tab and tweet us questions, comments. What do you want us to talk about? We'll answer. Just let us know.
You are watching Outnumbered, and we are glad you are. A big day in Oklahoma, where prosecutors have charged a man with first-degree murder for allegedly beheading a woman. Police say Alton Nolan attacked her and another woman at a food distribution center shortly after he was fired from his job there. And now we're learning new details about the suspect. Let's go straight to Garrett Tenney with the news live for us today in Norman, Oklahoma. Garrett?
Yeah, Harrison, just this last half hour, we wrapped up a press conference with the Cleveland County District Attorney, Greg Mashburn, and he told us that he is filing those charges today against Alton Nolan. 3 counts. First-degree murder, assault and battery with a deadly weapon, and assault with a deadly weapon. We also heard new details of how this horrific crime occurred. In the affidavit, police say Nolan was suspended last Thursday after ranting to coworkers about how he didn't like white people. He then went home and retrieved a knife to get back at those he felt were responsible for getting him suspended. Police tell me that added time there when he left work and went home and got the knife, it shows a very important aspect of premeditation in this case, and is a big reason why the district attorney is now planning to seek the death penalty.
It is highly likely that I will seek the death penalty in this case. Before that decision is made, I will talk to the family of Mrs. Hufford. That decision is not fair to make without consulting with them first, but that's definitely highly likely at this point.
So that decision will be made in the next couple of days because police are told that Nolan will be released from the hospital by tomorrow. At that point, he will officially be arraigned on those charges, and that's when the district attorney says the decision will be made as to whether or not he will seek the death penalty. Harris.
Garrett Tenney reporting live for us. Thank you very much. So we go from those new details to this development. There is now a call growing very loud for the White House to investigate the beheading, saying that the attack looks more like terrorism than workplace violence. But the suspect's sister told my friend Greta Van Susteren last night something very different. Watch.
I just think, he might have got involved with the wrong people, preaching the wrong things and basically corrupting his mind with just things that are unhuman. And I just don't understand that. I really don't. I honestly don't believe it's an act of terrorism, which is what everyone is trying to make it out to be, or anything like that.
Okay, so it sounds like the family's probably leaning towards some sort of insanity explanation for all of this. Regardless of all of that, Texas Governor Rick Perry says the White House needs to look into this. Andrea, do you think he's right?
Absolutely. And look at the signs that were there, Harris. The Facebook page that he used a Muslim name, and he's posting beheading videos. And he's saying things that I will instill terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. Things like that. Why didn't they catch him sooner? I'm just wondering who's monitoring these pages, number one. And number two, there's no question that it's terrorism. Absolutely no question. But we've seen time and again the FBI have to take a more politically correct role as directed by this administration.
That's right.
And look, workplace violence, call it what you want. This is clearly a man, this lone wolf attack, motivated by radical Islamic terrorism, and that's what it should be treated, and nothing else.
Major Nadal Hassan at Fort Hood, Texas, is one of the things that's being talked about in terms of workplace violence and how they might look at this current case. Your thoughts?
Listen, there is no other religion that would get this kind of deference with this kind of evidence that Andrea just laid out. Just picture for a moment, who would imagine, what if the Knights of Columbus had captured a bunch of little girls in Africa, forced them to convert, forced them to get married? What if there were beheadings and crucifixions in the name of the Opus Dei? Do you think our president would go to the UN and use precious minutes to defend that Christianity is a religion of peace? This is crazy stuff that we're dealing with right now,
Listen,
and it's
first
obvious.
of all, you can thank Ed Snowden for intimidating our national security intelligence officials, because this stuff is on Facebook, but people are afraid to connect the dots because of this guy. This guy should be tried and sentenced to death in absentia for what he did. And now we're starting to realize the damage he did. And the other thing is, if this guy had posted on his Facebook page a bunch of gay slurs, and his boss happened to be gay, and he went in and cut the guy's head off, he'd be charged with a hate crime. He should be.
I do want to say this, though, and I mean, we talk about what the workplace knew and what they didn't know. It's still not clear what crime he might have committed and what policy he might have broken before any of this happened.
But it goes to a broader picture of how we've been dealing with this. Way before Ed Snowden, this administration was pushing radical Islam under the table. We had the president at the UN and in front of the American people say that ISIS is not Islamic. It's a problem there. And the issue for me is, in the grand scheme of what everything that's going on, you have Homeland Security and the FBI warning a week ago, there might be a lone wolf attack. Lone wolf attack happens by a guy who's posting about Osama bin Laden on his Facebook page, and now all of a sudden it's workplace violence. I mean, they don't add up. Don't ask us to look for lone wolf attacks, and then when they happen, declare them as something else in the name of political correctness.
And you may be giving, and this is just a thought based on the reporting that we've done and what we know about Edward Snowden and so far what he's turned over, maybe giving him a bit too much credit.
Well, no, but generally the atmosphere is on the part of the intelligence officials. They've been slapped back and intimidated and told not to do this, not to be aggressive, not to connect the dots. And this guy is celebrated and vaunted, and people, even on the right, they love this guy. It's just, and we see the results of this and what's going to happen with all these guys coming back from Syria. We need these guys to do what they were doing before Ed Snowden.
All right. Or too much political correctness. I'm sure that we will talk more about this. 35 days to the midterm elections. And a recent poll shows Republicans have a pretty good chance of taking back the Senate. Better than pretty good in some areas. The race that could make all the difference, though, coming up. And Chelsea Clinton is now out of the hospital after giving birth to her beautiful baby girl. Look at the side-by-side there. Have you heard what some in the media are calling the daughter of the former President Bill Clinton? They're comparing her to the newborn British royalty, Wills and Kate. Really?
A new report painting a pretty bleak picture for Senate Democrats. Republicans need to flip just 6 seats to take control of Congress's upper chamber. And with Iowa Republican Joni Ernst making gains against Democratic Congressman Bruce Braley, the GOP's chances are only getting better. According to an election model used by the New York Times, Republicans now have a 67% chance of winning back control. That's the highest percentage the paper has given the GOP so far in this cycle. Now, Andrea,
yes.
When Joni Ernst first came on the scene, she released this amazing ad about cutting pork, right? And it was great, and some people criticized it, saying it was too, grassroots-ish, it wasn't sophisticated enough, but here we are now, 2 months out from the election, and she's pulling ahead.
Yeah, grassroots works.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
really does. I mean, we've seen some pretty good ads this election cycle, I will say that. But I still have my bubbly on ice, Katie. I'm waiting.
I know.
I'm not celebrating too soon, not going to pop the Veuve yet, or the Asti Spumante, whichever one you prefer. I do think, though, Republicans are very well positioned. When you have the New York Times today reporting that they are very well positioned, they've got the energy, they've got the enthusiasm. They don't have as much money, but they are forcing Democrats to spend a lot of money in states that they never thought that
like
they would
Colorado.
have to. No doubt. And they're nervous about
Louisiana,
it. And they should be very, very concerned.
Yeah, not that we want to put the cart before the horse here, but in terms of what we're going to see, what implications do you think, Harris, this has on President Obama's last 2 years should the Republicans gain control of the Senate?
You know what? He's a lame duck either way. I mean, I really think that the main battle that he's going to fight right now is going to happen, and we'll see if it happens before the midterms or after, is what we do in Syria and Iraq. I think that that's, will he try to get bipartisan buy-in? But, you have someone in your household who's actually serving the country right now, so I'm curious to know what you think.
Well, I think that it's interesting to see that in this case, the Democrats have totally outspent the Republicans. The first rule of politics is money is the most important thing. Well, maybe in this case, it really isn't. I mean, I know they're working hard to raise that money, but I think in this case, the issues, the absolute utter disappointment with the president right now, it's all a big drag.
Yep.
Yeah, well, look, anything that dethrones Harry Reid is going to make me happy. That shifty Weasley character is just too much to take.
That's a big deal. They lose all those committee chairmanships.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's huge. But maybe politically, it may benefit the president.
Yes.
Because then he has an enemy to run against.
And the Democrats in 2016, yes.
Yep, he has an enemy.
Chelsea Clinton is now out of the hospital after welcoming her first child. The former first daughter was seen leaving a New York City hospital holding baby Charlotte in her arms. Her husband by her side, Bill and Hillary right behind them. Many media outlets are comparing the scene to when Kate Middleton left the hospital after giving birth to her son last year. E-Online's headline reading, Chelsea Clinton channels Kate Middleton as she leaves hospital holding baby Charlotte. Take a look. And this from the UK site, Chelsea Clinton has a Kate Middleton moment as she leaves the hospital with baby girl. Now watch the reaction on CNN when the video first came out.
Baby Charlotte Clinton Bezvinsky right there. Gloria, I guess...
it looks like reminiscent of Kate Middleton.
This is
leaving.
This is our royalty, isn't it?
It is.
And even before the Clintons went home, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich, a close friend of the family, posted this on his Facebook page. I've known Chelsea Clinton since she was a little girl, and I'm very happy for her and her husband that they now have a little girl of their own. But I'm not sure this news merits the headlines it's getting. America does not have a royal family whose births of every grandchild are widely noted. Here, no royal heirs will someday assume the throne. Or have I missed something? So what do you think?
I rarely agree with Robert Reich, but I do agree in this instance that it's getting a little bit overblown. Very happy for the Clinton family, but we do not have a royal family, and I think that comparing Chelsea Clinton to Kate Middleton is a little bit
Andrea, do you think that this looks, is it very orchestrated? I mean, it's down to the blue dress. Everything is sort of made to look the same. Is this all a ploy to normalize?
Who cares? She's a Clinton. Let her have her day. And you know what? Imitation attention is the highest form of flattery. I don't blame her for scripting the moment. I would have a hair and makeup team there, too. I mean, can you imagine? If I'm Chelsea Clinton and knew all those cameras were outside, I don't think they're overblowing it at all.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I don't. Look what they did for the Bush baby.
Her parents photobombed
the Bush baby.
Her parents photobombed that.
Leave Chelsea alone. Everyone needs to leave her alone.
Her parents photobombed that beautiful event, as you described. It was a beautiful event.
And that was brilliant.
But that, you talk about choreographed and contrived. I mean, just stay out of the picture. They're using that to their political advantage.
Hillary's going to start talking about her granddaughter. Watch. My granddaughter. I'm going to run for my granddaughter. For the future of my granddaughter, we need to elect me. Women everywhere.
Well, you know, these are two different issues, though, because, I mean, did they know that the pictures were coming? Absolutely. And so maybe they prepared, and Andrea's right. You know, if you're going to get ready for the moment, go all out.
That's right.
But the flip side of this is what the journalists were saying. And I'm questioning, what are the people at CNN who do journalism thinking that they're the Clinton News Network now? I mean, you have people on air, and there was that one pundit.
Again.
Oh, stop. But there was that one pundit who said something. But I mean, you hear the anchors doubling down with, yes, just like royalty. I mean, I'm scratching my head. Did they do the same thing in March when Jenna Bush's baby was born? I don't remember that.
I didn't say royalty.
Maybe
she did get a lot of coverage.
She did, but did they call her royalty?
Right, there's a difference right there. There's a difference between coverage and celebration and that.
Wills and Kate, God bless them, they're really beautiful people. But
they are.
Royalty in general, it's just anachronistic, useless parasites.
Unless we call you royalty.
So so maybe the Clintons do fit into that category.
You're saying the mainstream media loves the Clintons? Is this really a Fox News alert? I mean, she was mimicking Kate. They were just pointing out a fact. It was the same backdrop, same dress.
But the question is, did it work? I think it looked very transparent. And the fascination with Will and Kate is that they have all the trappings of royalty, but they still seem so normal.
They take the subway.
And really, does anybody, I mean, nothing could be more not normal than the Clintons and the marriage behind them and everything else. So I'm not sure it really worked.
Line of the day. The Clintons photobombed their daughter.
They certainly did. And Hillary Clinton royally screwed us with her tenure as Madam Secretary. Look at the world today. That's one thing. And her breathtaking disloyalty when she accused President Obama. She gave Obama the royal salute by saying it was his failure to arm the rebels in Syria that led to ISIS. I mean, whether that's true or not, to say that is just unbelievable disloyalty, as I said. She's just a total consummate phony politician, and that her photobombing that particular event proves it.
Do you feel sorry for the husband? He didn't look very comfortable.
No,
Charlotte's dad.
He looks like a nice
whatever's
guy.
his name, Mark.
Yeah,
so were you talking about
Madam
Madam Secretary, the actual
Maybe
or
they
the
could
TV
really
show?
be happy they're grandparents for the first time. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
You like
happy.
this.
Yeah, she had a baby. Let him go. All right. Officials in one Dallas area hospital have isolated a patient who appears to be showing symptoms of the Ebola virus. We'll have a live update. And the author of the popular young adult novel, The Fault in Our Stars, you've probably seen the movie, is reacting to a school committee's recent ban of the book. And right after the show, head to the web for Outnumbered Overtime. Log on to foxnews.com/outnumbered and click the Overtime tab. Send us questions, comments. What do you want us to talk about? Let us know. Twitter, Facebook, email. We're there. Ask.
Have you ever been on a plane before?
No.
Because this is what it was like to drive in a car with you.
Haha. Oh.
Oh my God, we're flying. Oh my God, we're flying. Look. Look at the cars. They're like...
Millions of people are fans of this movie, The Fault in Our Stars, based on a best-selling young adult novel. That book now is banned from some California middle schools after a parent complained the subject matter is too much for kids at that age. The story is about two terminally ill teenagers who fall in love and eventually have sex. One school committee member says, quote, "The thing that kept hitting me like a tidal wave was these kids dealing with their own mortality and how difficult that might be for an 11 or 12-year-old reading this book," end quote. The author, John Green, reacting sarcastically to the ban, quote, "I am happy because apparently young people in Riverside, California will never witness or experience mortality since they won't be reading my book. But I am also sad because I was really hoping I would be able to introduce the idea that human beings die to the children, and that thereby crush their dreams of immortality," end quote there. As a mom of 7, on the couch today.
Whoa.
Who thought?
And I have a middle schooler. It's not the mortality thing. I don't. My kids watch the news. I think that's important that they know that. It's the sex. I'm sorry, call me a prude, but it should not be in middle school libraries. I don't want my son reading that. And frankly, I think that a lot of what passes for young adult literature these days is very dark. It's very cynical. There's a lot of sex. And I just think there's not enough classics. Why are they giving the kids this stuff? Let's give them more things that lift their spirits. Why is everything vampire-y and everything?
But the topic of immortality.
Thank you.
The topic of immortality specifically.
That doesn't bother me. I mean, I would want my kid to read The Diary of Anne Frank. I would want my kids to know that the mortality is not a problem for me. It's the sex.
Or mortality.
It is very
immortality.
It's a very heavy, intense topic. I mean, there's enough of that stuff bombarding them on the news, and let them read Harry Potter and Hop on Pop or whatever the hell it is. Look, they're 10, 11, 12. We're not talking about 16, 17, and 18. That is very, very young for kids, you know, to be delving into. On the upside, it's good to hear that kids are reading.
But for the parent who complains, that's a lot of power that parent had. And there might be the thought out there that it's a form of censorship. What do you say, Katie?
You know, I agree with Rachel. I'm not a parent and I haven't read this book, but I think that we should be teaching people or students, especially in middle school, about the classics. They should be focused on English literature, not necessarily on pop culture. At that point, we have an education problem in the United States, and it's probably because the teachers are not assigning things that actually can benefit them in terms of historical evidence.
You know, this is such a popular movie, and it is popular among those kids, but it was with a rating that would not go below the age of 13.
Right.
So there is that.
Right.
That's right, and that's coming out of Hollywood. So if you want to see the movie, go see the movie. If you like the book, buy it on your own. But I'm with Katie. Whatever happened to Catcher in the Rye?
Yeah.
I remember I was 12 years old. I was reading Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. All the Judy Blume books. I just think we're getting away from what schools should be teaching. And really, conversations about sex and morality are best had in the home and not in the classroom. And Rachel's right. This teacher sounds very dark. They get all of this dark influence from these vampire series and Twilights, and they're bombarded with sexual messages. Keep the classroom clean for once.
I want to bring up the flip side, though. Because this is a popular film, and because kids are probably exposed to it in one way or either a book or a movie, it does give that teacher an opportunity to talk about what's in pop culture right now. There's some very adult themes in here. Might there be the thinking, Rachel, that, you know, wouldn't you rather have somebody responsible talking about it than not?
That's exactly why I don't want to have that in school. I want to have those.
The teachers can handle it?
I want to have those conversations with my kids. In fact, even at my kids' Catholic schools, they have like one of these like stranger danger. I'm like, no, I don't want you talking about them. I sign the permissions form saying don't. I want to do those things. And by the way, the lady, Karen Kruger, I think is the mom. Good on her. I mean, that is a really hard thing to do, not just in the community, but with your own kids who are probably mortified that you're the one that got the book banned. Good for her. She's
What's this idea of teen love? Don't you think it's a little bit unrealistic to be selling kids this idea of sex and then love and falling in love? It's really unhealthy for kids to think that way at that age.
And they're discussing it in the classroom.
It's interesting, too, what you just said, and let's wrap it here. A permission slip. Now, that's an idea, because then you can decide if you want your kid to read that or not. All right, we'll just continue the discussion about other subjects as we move on. No signs of backing down. The latest demand for thousands of pro-democracy demonstrators to go home in Hong Kong as a new deadline approaches, a live report. Plus, Halloween taking an R-rated turn. Costumes, even from a popular kids movie like Frozen. That does not look like the Olaf I know, honey. Wow. Red hot, sexy, crossing the line, or good business.
Oh, is that Olaf?
They did the mash. They did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. They did the mash. It caught on in a flash. They did the mash.
More Outnumbered in just a moment, but first to Shannon Bream in for Jenna Lee with what's coming up in the second hour of Happening Now. Shannon?
Well, Andrea, next hour, first-degree murder charges today for Alton Nolan. He's the 30-year-old who allegedly beheaded a co-worker and stabbed another one in a crime spree after he'd been fired. His family is saying now he's been a recent convert to Islam. Casey Stiegel's reporting on that. And a sick man in Texas is being tested for the Ebola virus. He is in strict quarantine, and test results could come as soon as today for the deadly virus that that has sickened thousands in Africa. Jonathan Seri will have a live report on that story. And a surge of horrific violence in southern Mexico. At least 6 students murdered, and 22 local police are the prime suspects. Will Carr will have that as well. Andrea, we'll see you soon.
All right, Shannon Bream, thank you.
I may be outnumbered, but now it's my turn with this story. It seems nothing is off limits anymore, with Halloween costumes becoming more and more revealing by the year. No doubt Olaf the snowman in the hit Disney movie Frozen will be popular this year with the kids, but now the website Yandy is selling costumes that leave little to the imagination. Take a look at the adult version of Olaf, the lovable and goofy character turning up the heat with a skin-tight bodysuit and thigh-high stockings. The company is also selling sexy costumes inspired by other characters from Frozen. Now listen, I used to, back in the day, used to go trick-or-treating with my kids. I wore a Richard Nixon mask, bustier, heels, and fishnet stockings until they turned about 12 and became really embarrassed.
And now you just save it for private parties?
They realized why they didn't get any candy. And they forced me to put on the Yogi Bear mask. Listen, no. What do you think of this? Is this like going too far or what?
Well, I think grown-ups have sort of ruined the holiday for kids. I mean, they've sort of taken over. If you can look at the numbers of where the sales are for Halloween, it's all for these grown-up costumes like this. And what happens is you might go, well, you know, let the grown-ups have their fun. But little kids like mine who love Frozen, I wish I could have brought in all these videos of them singing Let It Go, and they're like this little, aww. And they look up Anna, and what pops up, that, and all these things, and they're ruining it. It's, you know, can't the kids have something of their own?
It's disgusting.
Adults grow up for a second.
All these adolescent grown-ups.
You're not really disgusted by this, though, Brian. I don't mean to dime out Gasparino, but yesterday on the couch, he had no problem with these costumes.
Look, I have no problem in an adult setting, but when you start seeing kids on the street trick-or-treating, and they start looking like, but Miley Cyrus today, I do have a problem with that. But as far as if adults keep it to themselves...
Watch it. I dressed up as Miley last year.
Did you really?
I did.
I want to go to your parties.
I bet you do. They're
like
fun.
A big bear around with you and a big bear?
I did. Oh, I had the foam finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it is true that all the costumes are going from that slutty grown-up thing, and it's coming all the way down. And now there's no cute or scary pirate. They're all sexy pirates, and they're for tweens and teens. Sexy Pocahontas, sexy
Because
witch.
Halloween has become an excuse for girls to dress like hoochies.
Well,
it's a fact. It's true.
But Halloween is also a really big business. And I mean, if you can take it beyond parents buying things for their children, the $7 billion that they're expected to spend this year will be even greater than that if you can get adults to buy in. I would just like to say, since Yandy.com, I think, are the people who are putting these out.
Yes.
Thanks a lot for giving me one more thing I have to explain to my kids.
Well, when I grew up, Halloween was always 2 feet of snow on the ground, so we always went as the real snowman anyway.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't really, you're in the right area. You have snow,
like
you can't really dress up like that anyway, so I don't have a problem with it, I guess.
Well, did your mom nag you too much? Not to slouch. Sit up straight. Well, turns out she may have had a point. Hate telling mom she was always right. The science to back up those reminders to sit up straight when we come back.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
It looks like your mom was right. Sit up straight. It's good. A new study finds better posture has a host of positive effects on people's lives, including higher self-esteem, more positive thinking, and even an improved sex life.
What?
Bernie is sitting at a 90-degree angle. I hear that one.
Listen, you want a good sex life, you have to sit up erect. That's what they tell you, right? That's what Mom told you. Mom said this for years.
But
I'm emailing Mom right now to explain.
Is this the problem?
My mom's watching right now, so thanks.
Wait. What kind of filthy minds are on this couch am I sitting with?
Is it the devices that are the problem, though? Because now, we're kind of all like this. So is that
She said to me while I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
Right,
Your husband called. He wants you to get off your phone.
No, he would just text me, honey, I can see your phone in the shot.
surgery now because people do this all the time.
They're
They're going into these plastic surgeries.
This is a scoliosis.
It's from looking down at your phone.
It's a scoliosis machine, this phone. That's what it is, folks. So put it down, stand up, look around.
Before the phone,
and you'll
people
get some,
were hunched over at computer keyboards as well, and typewriters, and, you know, working on TV, you notice it's so slimming when you sit up straight.
Boy, I need to sit up very straight.
Yeah, man.
But you know what I did in my office? I now have a standing desk because Greta Van Susteren got me to make that change in my life because I was having some shoulder rotator cuff problems. It also helps me to digest my food better.
Wow.
Because you're erect and your food goes down the way it should be and you have more energy.
I've always found that.
No chair in the
I have one because, you know, Greta's...
Let's get back to the sex part.
Yeah, she can keep up better. I have to sit down every now and then.
I have a ball chair at work, so it's one of those fitness balls that you sit up on, and it doesn't have a back, so it makes you sit up straight, and it also gives you a little bit of workout while you're sitting there.
I like that.
It's a standing desk, but it is a kind of middle ground alternative. It's a ball chair. So.
And I do have to sit down every now and then because I'm lazy.
What kind of desk do you have? What kind of chair do you have?
I have
vibrating chair.
No. You know what I'm going to get now? Though? I'm going to get a back brace, and I'm going to make sure that
It's true.
Because who knew the benefits? No, I have a horrible chair. It leans back. Speaking of scoliosis, I had it as a kid, but which is why I didn't do so well.
No, that's serious.
Come on, man. Narrow back. You know what a narrow back is?
Because you have more energy from sitting up and taking in more oxygen. What I read was that increases your ability to do all activities, including sex.
I think our entire audience just went,
sit up.
All right, we're staying right here for Outnumbered Overtime on the web, foxnews.com/outnumbered. Do it standing. Click on the Overtime tab. We're back here on TV tomorrow at noon Eastern. Happening Now starts right now.
Namaste.